work together, so I'll let them introduce their respective organizations, and I don't think you guys get a microphone, so.
I don't think so, but I could use the clicky.
All right.
So I'll just start. We'll introduce ourselves here at the beginning of this. I'm Doug Davidson. I'm the Director of Business Technology Solutions at GBQ. As you came in the door here, you might have seen our logo out there. Not an advertisement, just who we are. We're a CPA firm. We do accounting, we do auditing, and I run a group that helps clients build technology and manage risk. And one of our clients is Rep1, and one of our clients is the Columbus Foundation. In the course of doing financial audits, their CFO Scott and our audit leadership decided that they needed to have in their leadership agreement with this a little bit more of a handle of risk. And you think we're in this pretty risky world right now. GBQ we do some of our tax work in India. We do some of our audit work in the Philippines. We own facilities there. When the Pakistanis and the Indians start lobbing shells at each other, we start looking at the map. We have clients that have relationships with companies in Ukraine. I ordered a piece of furniture off of Etsy about the time the Houthis started blowing ships up in the Red Sea, and I watched it and was hoping the ship would go along and that my furniture didn't get blown up. I mean, there's all these risks to putting on. And so financial, if you know the Columbus Foundation, they manage a lot of money. They're different than most firms that manage money. They have billions of dollars in assets under management. Their job is to give it away. There's still a lot of risks that are involved when you give money away. There's still a call might come in when you're on the phone, or when you're doing a presentation. There we go.
While you handle that, let me take it back a second. The Columbus Foundation is a community foundation focused around Central Ohio. Our job is basically anything that touches philanthropy. So we have money coming in, we have money coming out, we have education coming in, education coming back out, and the investment strategy that goes on between it. So we're dealing millions of dollars of assets under management, giving out millions of dollars every year. I'm sorry, billions of dollars under management. And then
Billions with a B.
Billions with a B. And giving out millions every year. That's the right way to go. And how that all circles around when you're talking about privacy and personal data and financial data and all of that things. So my CFO wanted to have a larger conversation about risk, so reached out to our clients.
So went in and met with them. There's a big financial model or a big financially oriented model for COSO. They didn't want to go with the big model. They were trying to figure out what to do. Is what happens a lot of times. The cyber people get brought into it. Our audit team came down, had me come out and started meeting. Had several meetings in terms of structuring what this risk assessment would be like. Complete coincidence. I go to the ISSA summit, and Junell's giving a talk on NIST 830, which is the risk assessment method that we were going to use and apply there. And I'm sitting there as a consultant, like, why are they going to hire me? They already got somebody that works there that can do the work. And so then competition stopped about 2 months.
Yeah.
And Scott, the CFO, called us in and said, here's Junell. She's going to do the project. You're going to help. And so that's how we've come together to really look at an enterprise risk problem, an organization with a lot of assets, but relatively small, that has real world risks, not the internal expertise that they thought of to be able to manage the risks that they have as an organization.
So we're here talking to you because we actually came up with something cool. We started with this whole idea that we've got frameworks out there. Why can't we just put everything into a framework? We've got COSO, we've got ISO, we've got NIST. We're looking at cyber risk. We're looking at the practical purposes and the procedures that come out of these different frameworks, and realize that none of this actually works. How many people have done a risk assessment and got actionable, measurable results out of it? Or is it an exercise that you do once a year because insurance says, hey, I'm going to do this? Yeah. You got a general idea, maybe you can have some conversations, but is there anything to actually measure them? And are you protecting yourselves in any case? You end up in this circle where it's talk and no action, or action that's not aligned. Or maybe you're not even doing it at all, you don't know where to start. So we reframed it.
Yeah.
Risk wasn't just one thing.
So if you think about it from an organizational standpoint, you're a business leader, you're a department leader, it's really about the outcomes. And when you take a look at this data under 30 and some of the other cybersecurity risk models, there's impact, there's likelihood, there's the outcomes, there's controls that need to be put in place. I traveled last week, I was at a conference in Dallas. I left Wednesday. Had I left Thursday, I wouldn't have left because there were telecommunication problems. If I was in Europe, it would have been because of a cyber attack. Does it really matter from an outcome perspective, whether the both Dallas airports were down at the same time, all the telecom equipment failed at the same time? At the networking event, we can argue over whether it was a cyber attack or not. That's fun, but from a business standpoint, I just go travel. It'd be the same thing if I'm in Europe. And so combining this and looking at it at that level allowed us to bring in some of the tactical tools that we use as cybersecurity professionals, but handle a much bigger enterprise level problem.
We started to look at what happens. Everybody knows when you're looking at the cybersecurity side of things, you start with your threat. Then you go, who can do it? Well, can they actually do it? Do I have vulnerabilities? How is it going to be exacerbated? What's the impact? What's the urgency of it? And then I'm going to go put it on my matrix. Does it matter at the end of the day if my building is destroyed because of a bomb or because of a tornado? The fact of the matter is I don't have a building anymore. But look at the end results. My wide array just opened up and I can measure that. I can measure that individual thing. Our check processing system is down. Doesn't matter how it's down. Then I get to have a conversation. I can synthesize all of these different frameworks that have been giving us this opportunity to build a program from more than, well, this one thing could happen. By looking at an impact first lens, we've given ourselves the opportunity to catch those things that we just don't know. The next ransomware variant can come out, and my playbook only works for, I don't know, scattered spider and their attack processes. But I know that behind my check processing system, I need to have other controls in place. I've taken it from a conversation of what if to what now into this.
And I think one of the things we found too was that if you look at the facilities manager had a very significant role in this, and what happens if something catches on fire? There's a basement at the Columbus Foundation that tends to attract more water than you want a basement to attract.
To be fair, the building is like 150
It's a
years
really cool
old.
building. It's on Broad Street. It's the governor's. It's gorgeous. The facilities manager needs to worry about the threats, there's not drainage outside, the sump pump doesn't work, whatever those threats need to be, those controls at a technical level. But business manager just needs to know if the basement floods, the building's not available. So we really don't care whether it's the basement flooding or something else has happened in the neighborhood. We just don't have a building. And so that's the taking it from the tactical, which a lot of the cyber professionals or IT professionals have to address. And bringing it up to a business level, because business management, to be resilient, have to address the outcome regardless of what caused the outcome. We were able to distill the technical details, the typical thing when you do a risk assessment, oh, that'll never happen. All the emotional, what if somebody dies? What if somebody is promoted? What if somebody
It's the lottery.
leaves? We have a succession problem, we don't document it. And so we were able to distill it, move the emotion out of it, and work on a business outcome level so that we can solve the problem with business solutions and controls, not the technical, tactical. COSO, on the other hand, would have been, there's 17 domains in COSO. There's somebody here from Nationwide. They have a whole team that works on risk assessment aligned with COSO. How many, what's it all have?
63.
63 people or organizations don't have 2 or 3 people free to sit around and think about all all of the risks that a business has, but we have to exist in a risky world.
And what it did as well is it brought more people into the conversation. Yeah, I don't have two people to sit and think about the risk of something happening. But I could go to somebody whose job is to write scholarship checks, go through the applications to ensure that our students have funding for their education and say, hey, how would your job be impacted if you lost access to the check printer? Oh, those students aren't going to be able to get their scholarship checks. They're going to get fees for having late payments. They're going to get dropped out of college. Oh, man, this is suddenly a much higher impact than, hey, we can't issue payroll checks. And as a security practitioner, we've learned through this lens, I operate in the operational side, the tactical side, and the human side of things. I am uniquely qualified to lead those conversations with the help of our partners, of course. But when we look at the cybersecurity lens of things, this is something that we're doing every day. Practitioners in this room and how we look at things. My world doesn't stop here. I walk down the hallway every day. I walk out to my car. I experience weather. I see these things with my own eyes. Why can't I have this conversation? So we challenge you. Use the frameworks at your disposal to create actionable insights within your organizations. Look at risk, not as a cyber, not as an enterprise, but as something that you are uniquely qualified to speak about.
You know, one of the lessons, if you're in management here, you probably have the skills to take back to senior management and apply some of the risk problems that your organization has. And I know just from kind of name tag surveying, there's some real small businesses and some really large businesses here that maybe mileage may vary a little bit the size of the business. But you probably have that skill set. You're a manager to take back. And if you're a student or you're somebody that's more in the tactical roles right now and you're moving up, risk is something, I think we've always been in a risky world, and now it's all over the internet and more focused on it. But you got to admit, a couple more risks going on today than we usually have, and businesses have to address it. And so typically, what we're finding is the cyber team is that team within an organization that has a skill set to apply to the greater risks. Some of it you may need to advocate in the senior management. We've seen a lot of this experience and others that they'll get caught up on the issues and get into the emotional, this never happened. But if you can apply the framework, it squeezes that out. And on the flip side, we were able to engage and separate the emotion in the conversation. We interviewed 17 managers and line level employees. And it's fascinating, like an oral history of the Columbus Foundation.
Yes.
It's fascinating. The risks that we teased out based on the outcome conversation instead of things that may or may not have happened. We did hear some things that may or may not have happened, but we're able to distill them out into something that we manage.
Oh, I think we have to throw AI in here. We used our notes into AI to help distill the patterns of notes and use that to help negotiate our conversations.
Not a product placement, and I'm the farthest thing from an influencer ever, but we used Otter, and Otter helped us distill it out.
So, do you have a framework at your organization? Do you know what that framework is? Are you stuck into it? Do you think there's no other way? How did you reframe it? Questions for you. Do you have questions for us?
So in your method, is it sort of based on the missed approach, but then changing instead of trying to model each attack vector or whatever you just you sort of change to focusing on the outcomes and the contingency plan?
What we did is through the series of these conversations and the observations of the businesses, the different components of our service catalog, basically, identified what was key to our mission and the end of the day. And then went, okay, this is my service, this is what I do, this is what is critically me. And, all right, these are the things that are important to the organization, our reputation, our financial ability, our stakeholders' reputation, our day-to-day functioning. We took out 10 different levels and said, okay, if there was a minor disruption to this service, would it impact my general reputation? Would it impact my shareholders? Or not necessarily shareholders in the public traded company sense, but the shareholders for philanthropy organization will be the nonprofits that are my grantees. They are still involved. Will it affect my employee morale? And I went through it. Actually, we had a committee that went through it individually, distilled that out to say, okay, if we were to lose the check processing system, our reputation would be impacted in a medium amount because we aren't able to get checks out in a timely manner. So we are going to put the resources into ensuring that that doesn't happen. So we have a backup for the check processing machine. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that's all.
And it was interesting, the committee was, I was ex officio, three people, we had the controller, so somebody with a financial perspective, somebody from a legal perspective. Somebody looks at financial risk and somebody looks at legal risk, two totally different perspectives. And so we kept coming back, this was kind of a Rosetta Stone to throw all the tech, all the IT risks that are a part of the NIST 830, throw those out, but then bring in some of these outcomes. And then part of the committee process, we have a score. And to use a qualitative score was a lot easier than the effort it's going to take if we were going to look at actual financial system.
Yeah, nobody
data.
does that.
It was too much. So it helped them walk through it with the committee as well.
And we found that after we sat down, we all did the assessing independently. And then we came together to talk about one set of questions, aligned on those, did the rest of them independently. We're all within 2 to 3 points of each other in our answers. So we were aligned in what our mission was, what the values of the organizations were, and it really helped turn that into a conversation of, well, what happens next? Yes, my friend.
Do you have any insights in how you shaped the conversation with the business in regards to buying into this technology and the results that you found from it?
The biggest challenge came before I existed, which is beneficial. Being aware of the impact that we have onto the community, we knew that as a critical service provider, we needed to be able to protect people. So understanding what that risk conversation was happened before I joined the team. But to actually put the time, energy, and effort into it did involve a lot of conversation to say, hey, this is why we're changing things. But I lean very much into the why. Not the what if, but the real why behind it, which in this case was to drive actionable change to ensure that we could continue to live up to our mission. And I stuck it on the value and not on the technology. That gets people in a whole lot quicker.
We were fortunate, a little bit of background before she got there. We bought the audit firm that did their audit. So even before GQ got there, this had been raised as a concern, and management built a list but never got to it. This really wasn't a technology we implemented, it was a process. And the process had started 4 or 5 years ago where they had this list of, this is the stuff that keeps us up at night. They didn't have an actionable process to get to the point where they said, we're going to stack rank it and then start working on the ones that non-emotionally we think we need to be worried about first.
And that turns then back into the ISO standards where I have to have, my governance documents in there. Well, actionable item, my check processing machine needs to have limited people on it because it's a financial system. I need to make sure that's documented someplace. I'm going to make sure that that's in my policy. And then I've updated my policy actually to what I'm doing as opposed to that high in the sky. This is what we should be doing policy, which everybody has. Guilty, I have some. Yes.
Do you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on how folks can use this in connection with things like standards like NIST, CSF, or things like that?
So this governance standard within the NIST works on your controls. Your controls are the second part of this process. Is identifying this is what matters, this is what can hurt it. This is how likely that is to happen. You're doing the risk assessment. You're just going back.
NIST, everybody says, we do this. So
Yeah.
the NIST CSF or the NIST 853 or control frameworks, NIST 830 is the risk assessment method that's used when you evaluate. So they've been built to work together. But we just, I guess I'll Kevin shake his head. Everybody says NIST, and then it's like, oh yeah, well,
Doesn't say anything.
No.
But we are working on getting a white paper, maybe in a longer situation of how we went about this. How would you guys, so keep an eye out for that.
All right, again, we're gonna switch speakers, but they're gonna be here at break, so please hit them up.
And we do the LinkedIn thingy.
Oh,
So
so if you want to find.
there's our LinkedIn thingies.
Thank you.